Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum guys. Today we are discussing about scapula. Right. First of all, we start with its name. The word scapula is derived from a Latin word which means shoulder blade. Right. This is the introduction of scapula. Right. And it has two surfaces, three borders, similarly three angles and three processes. Right. Okay. And now first we start with its side determination. Okay. Its side determination includes only 3 points, and these 3 points are here. First one is that the glenoid cavity should be on lateral side. Right. Second one is its costal surface should be kept anterior or in front. Right. And third one and the last one is that its dorsal surface should be backward. Okay, we discuss it with the diagram now. That look, this is the glenoid cavity, right? It should be placed on left side. So I'm sorry, my mistake. It should be placed on lateral side, right? This is the first point. Second point is that the costal surface should be kept while facing forward, right? While the dorsal surface, which is shown in here, right? This is the dorsal view. This should be backward, right? When we satisfy all these conditions, we come to know that this diagram is of scapula, right scapula, right? This is the right scapula. When we stand in the anatomical position, we can observe that of the right scapula, the glenoid cavity lies laterally, and while its costal surface is facing forward and dorsal surface is backward. While satisfying these three conditions, we observe that this diagram is of right scapula, right? This is the side determination. After the side determination, we discuss about its bony features. Okay, first of all we discuss, these are the bony features, right? First of all we discuss about its surfaces. Okay, it has two surfaces, costal surface and dorsal surface, right? Okay, the costal surface gives attachment to subscapularis muscle and serratus anterior, right? It has three ridges which are longitudinal and one broad ridge along lateral border. Right. This is the costal surface. This area gives attachment to subscapularis on the subscapular fossa. This region gives attachment to serratus anterior. We will discuss these later in the attachments. These are three longitudinal ridges, and this one is the broader ridge that lies along the lateral border. This one is the lateral border, right? Okay, now we talk about its dorsal surface. Its dorsal surface gives attachment to the spine or spinous process, right? Spine divides it into supraspinous and infraspinous fossae. Okay, supraspinous and infraspinous fossae, and moreover the supraspinous fossae is 1/3 of the dorsal surface and infraspinous fossae is 2/3 of the dorsal surface. Okay, these were the two surfaces, and now we discuss about borders of scapula. Okay, it has three borders. First one is the superior, right? It is thin. Second one is inferior. Sorry, it is medial. It is also thin. Third one and the last one is lateral, which is thick, right? It is the thickest part of scapula. Thickest part of scapula. Okay, now we will show them on diagram. This is the superior border of scapula and it is thin. Okay, this one is the medial border of scapula. It extends from the medial angle it extends from the medial angle to the inferior angle, right? This one is also thin, and this one is the lateral border, which is the thickest part of scapula, and it extends from the glenoid cavity or lateral angle to the inferior angle, right? Okay, these three were the borders, and now we talk about the angles of scapula. Angles are also three, right? First one is superior, second one is inferior, while third one is lateral. Okay, the superior angle, sorry, it is covered by trapezius muscle, right? And the inferior is covered on dorsal aspect by latissimus dorsi. Okay, the lateral one, it is also called the glenoid angle because it has glenoid cavity or glenoid fossa, right, which gives attachment to the humeral head to form the glenohumeral joint. Okay, so this is covered by the glenohumeral joint or glenoid labrum, you can also say glenoid labrum. Okay, now we show them on diagram that this is the superior angle, right? It is of almost triangular shape. Angles are always of triangular shape. This is the superior angle of scapula, this one is the inferior angle of scapula, and this one is the lateral angle of scapula. The superior one gives attachment to trapezius, inferior one gives attachment to the latissimus dorsi on the dorsal surface and dorsal aspect, while third one is the lateral one, which gives attachment to the humeral head to form glenohumeral joint. These three were the angles. Now we talk about the processes of scapula. These are also three. First one is spine or spinous process, right? It divides the dorsal surface into supraspinous and infraspinous fossa. It again has, the spinous process has three borders and two surfaces, right? Its posterior border is called crest of spine, right? The crest of spine has two lips. We will discuss them about later, their significance in the attachments, because they give attachment to the important muscles. Okay, after that we have the acromion process. It has two surfaces. These surfaces are superior and inferior, right? And two borders, medial and lateral. Okay, while the third one is the coracoid process. It is also derived from a Greek word, right? Name of the scapula is derived from a Latin word which means shoulder blade, while the name of the coracoid process is derived from a Greek word which means crow's beak, like crow's beak. Okay, it is actually bent just like beak of a crow. So now here is the diagram. Look, this is the spinous process. This is the spinous process, right? It has three borders, two surfaces. Its surfaces are its posterior border is called crest of spine. This is the posterior border called crest of spine. Here are its lip, upper lip, lower lip, right? Okay, and now this is the acromion process. The acromion process is actually continuation of the spine of scapula, right? Okay, this is the superior surface. As we have discussed that the acromion process has two surfaces and two angles, so these two borders, sorry. So this is the lateral border of acromion process. This one is the medial border of acromion process. This one is the superior surface of acromion process. This one is the inferior surface of acromion process, and this is the facet that gives attachment to clavicle to form acromioclavicular joint, right? This one is the last process we discussed. This is called the coracoid process. Its name is derived from a Greek word which means crow's beak, and you can see that its appearance is just like a crow's beak, or it is also like a bent finger, right? You can compare its shape with the bent finger, right? These three were the processes of scapula. Okay, now the most important part of scapula is here. This one is attachment. Okay, its attachments are more than 20, and now we are going to discuss them one by one with the diagram. This is a brief diagram of scapula. Okay, this is the anterior aspect. Okay, first of all we discuss about subscapularis muscle. This is subscapularis muscle, right? Subscapularis muscle, you can see that it arises from the subscapular fossa on the anterior side, right? This is the subscapularis muscle. Okay, and it arises from medial 2/3 of subscapular fossa, right? This is the medial part of subscapular fossa. This one is the lateral, and you can see that it is almost 2/3 of subscapular fossa, right? This is the serratus anterior. It is present in 8 digitations, and it extends from the superior angle, right? It extends from superior angle to inferior angle, right? It is present in the form of 8 digitations. This one is its first digitation, this one is its second and third digitation, this one, right? And here like it's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th digitation, right? Its digitations are present in the form of 3 groups: First group has only one digitation, second has two digitations, while third one and the last one has remaining 5 digitations, right? This is the serratus anterior muscle. Okay, and now this is the glenoid cavity, right? It gives attachment to the capsule of glenohumeral joint. Okay, this one lies on the lateral side, and just below the glenoid cavity is the tubercle. Since it lies below the glenoid cavity, so it is named infraglenoid tubercle. It gives attachment to the long head of triceps brachii. Similarly, there is a tubercle on the upper side or superior to the glenoid cavity. It gives attachment to the long head of biceps brachii, right? Okay, and now this is the tip or head of coracoid process. It gives attachment to the coracobrachialis and short head of biceps brachii. Coracobrachialis and short head of biceps brachii. This one on the superior surface of coracoid process is pectoralis minor muscle, right? Pectoralis minor muscle. Okay, and now we talk about this one. This is the coracoclavicular ligament, right? It attaches the coracoid process to the clavicle, coracoclavicular ligament. Okay, this one is the acromion process, right? That is the continuation of spine of scapula. The acromion process has a facet. This facet, it is called the clavicular facet because it gives attachment to the clavicle to form the acromioclavicular joint, right? This is the tip of acromion process. It gives attachment to the deltoid muscle, and this is not the whole deltoid muscle. Mostly it is attached to the on the posterior side to the inferior lip of spine, and then the lateral border of acromion process. It will be discussed in this diagram which is coming. First of all, we discuss about that. This is the transverse ligament, right? This is the actually the suprascapular notch, and this is the transverse ligament. This is the suprascapular notch. This is the transverse ligament to form suprascapular notch, and from this passes the suprascapular nerve, right? In this notch passes the suprascapular nerve. This is the suprascapular notch. As you can see that it lies on the upper side of scapula, so it is called the suprascapular notch, and it is completed by the transverse ligament, right? Okay, this all was about the anterior aspect of scapula, and now this is all about the posterior aspect of scapula, right? Okay, this is the glenoid cavity. As we have already discussed that it gives attachment to the humerus to form glenohumeral joint. This is the supraglenoid tubercle which gives attachment to the long head of biceps brachii. This is the infraglenoid tubercle which gives attachment to the long head of triceps brachii. This is the head of the coracoid process which gives attachment to the coracobrachialis and short head of biceps brachii. Now these are the muscles which we have not discussed yet. Let's discuss them. Okay, this is the spinous process of scapula, right? Up till here it is called the spine, and then it is called the acromion process. Okay, as we have discussed that the crest of spine had two lips, upper and lower lip, right? Its upper lip gives attachment to trapezius muscle, right? And the trapezius muscle is attached to the here. As far as the spine is concerned, it is attached to the upper lip of spine, and when it comes through the acromion process, it is attached to the medial border of acromion process. So total attachments of the trapezius are medial border of acromion process and upper lip of spine, right? Similarly, when we come to the deltoid muscle, it is attached to the lower lip of spine and lateral border of acromion process, right? Okay, this one here, this is called the supraspinatus muscle because this is the supraspinous fossa. So here attaches the supraspinatus muscle. It is attached on the medial two-third, right? This one is the lateral side, this one is the medial side, so it covers medial two-third of the supraspinous fossa, right? Okay, this one is the levator scapulae muscle, right? The levator, here lies the root of spine. So levator scapulae extend from the superior border or superior angle to root of spine, right? The levator scapulae extends from superior angle to root of the spine on posterior surface or dorsal surface of scapula along medial border, right? These are 3 or 4 points about levator scapulae: medial border, dorsal surface, from superior angle to root of spine, right? Similarly, the rhomboid minor, this is the rhomboid minor. It is attached to the medial angle, right? Medial angle of scapula on the dorsal surface. Medial angle of scapula on the dorsal surface gives attachment to the rhomboid minor. After the rhomboid minor, we have this muscle, this one is the rhomboid major, right? Rhomboid major lies along the medial border of scapula. Note that rhomboid minor is attached on the medial angle of scapula. Rhomboid major is attached to the medial border of scapula. This one is the difference between them. The rhomboid major extends from the medial angle to inferior angle, right? The medial border lies between the median angle and the inferior angle of scapula, and the rhomboid major covers whole of the medial border of scapula. Okay, and now we have this one is the inferior angle of scapula, right? And it gives attachment to the latissimus dorsi on posterior or dorsal aspect, right? This one is the latissimus dorsi, which is attached to inferior angle on posterior aspect. Okay, now we come to the lateral border of scapula. The upper 2/3 of the lateral border of scapula on posterior side gives attachment to the teres major, which is present in the form of 2 slips. This is the first one slip and this is the second slip, right? These slips are separated by the circumflex scapular artery, right? This one is the circumflex scapular artery. It is called circumflex because it surrounds the scapula, right? It surrounds the scapula to form anastomosis, which will be discussed later. And now we are left with this one only muscle, right? This muscle is the teres minor muscle. It covers last 1/3 of lateral border of scapula or lower 1/3 of lateral border of scapula, right? So this was all about the attachments of scapula. And now we are left with the only diagram. This is actually the superior view of scapula, right? This. Okay, now this is the acromion process. This one is the coracoid process, glenoid cavity, and this one is the coracoid process, and the acromion process is present here, right? Acromion process, spinous process, coracoid process, and this is the glenoid cavity. Okay, this whole chunk of muscle is the supraspinatus muscle, as it is from the back side. So supraspinatus muscle is present on the supraspinous fossa, just below the spine, right? This is the deltoid muscle that lies along the lower lip of spine of scapula and lateral border of acromion process, right? This one is the trapezius muscle. It is present on the upper lip of acromion process and along the medial border of acromion process, right? This is the clavicular facet, which gives attachment to the clavicle to form acromioclavicular joint. And then this one is coracoacromial ligament, right? The coracoacromial ligament attaches the coracoid process to acromion process here, right? It extends like this. This is the pathway. The coracoacromial ligament extends from tip of the acromion process to the base of coracoid process, right? Okay, and now which muscle is left? Right, this is the omohyoid muscle. It is left. It is also visible in this diagram. Omohyoid muscle is present near the suprascapular notch, and it is attached to the superior border of scapula. Okay, this is the omohyoid process, omohyoid muscle, sorry, and these are conoid and trapezoid parts of the coracoclavicular ligament. We discussed them in the clavicle, right? These are the conoid and trapezoid parts, right? This is the coracoid process, right? So, and this is the suprascapular notch, right? So we can say that the coracoclavicular ligament gives attaches to the scapula in two parts. First one lies on the coracoid process, while the second one lies just near the suprascapular notch on the tip of the coracoid process. Okay, and I think our attachments, we have done all the attachments, just joints are remaining. So this is the glenoid cavity, and it gives attachment to the glenohumeral joint, right? This is the clavicular facet which form the acromioclavicular joint. These are the only two joints formed by the scapula, right? The glenohumeral joint is formed with the head of the humerus, while the acromioclavicular joint is formed with the acromial end of clavicle. Okay, we have discussed the attachments, features, everything. Only the remaining part and the most important one is clinicals of scapula, right? Its most important clinical, which is usually asked in the examination, is winging of scapula. Right. This is caused because of the damage to or paralysis of long thoracic nerve. Damage to long thoracic nerve. The long thoracic nerve supplies to the serratus anterior muscle, right? So when the long thoracic nerve is damaged, the serratus anterior becomes paralyzed, and the if serratus anterior is paralyzed, the medial border of scapula becomes unduly prominent. Medial border of scapula becomes unduly prominent, right? Suppose this is scapula, right? This one is its medial side. Suppose this one is its lateral side, this one is its posterior, and this one is anterior, right? So in case of the damage to serratus long thoracic nerve, which causes paralysis of the serratus anterior, the medial border of scapula will become unduly prominent, just like that. This is the normal position. If then winging of scapula will lead to such condition, right? This is winging of scapula. Okay, this was all about scapula, and I tried my best to deliver the knowledge, everything about scapula. Hope you will like the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Okay, take care. Allah Hafiz. Sorry, I forgot the revision today, so we take a quick review of scapula. First of all, its name is derived from a Latin word which means shoulder blade, and it has two surfaces, three borders, three angles, and three processes. And its side determination, like the glenoid cavity lies on the lateral side, the costal surface which is concave forward, and it should be anterior, right? While the dorsal surface, which is convex, it should be on backwards. Okay, and then its bony features, it has two surfaces, the costal surface and the dorsal surface. The costal surface gives attachment to the subscapularis muscle and the serratus anterior, and it has three longitudinal ridges, one broad ridge that lies along the lateral border, and the dorsal surface is divided by spine into supraspinous fossa, infraspinous fossa. The supraspinous fossa is 1/3 of the dorsal surface, the infraspinous fossa is 2/3 of the dorsal surface, and then its borders. First border is its superior, which is thin, then the medial one which is also thin, then the lateral one which is thickest part of scapula, then its angles. It has three angles: the superior one, inferior one, and the lateral one. The superior one is covered by trapezius, inferior one is covered by the latissimus dorsi on dorsal aspect. The lateral one gives attachment to the glenoid, gives attachment to the humerus to form glenohumeral joint, right? And then its processes, its first process is spine, right, which is present on the dorsal side. It has three borders, two surfaces. Its posterior border is also called the crest of spine. It has two lips, and the acromion process has two surfaces, two borders. Its two surfaces are superior and inferior. Its two borders are medial and lateral. And then the last process is the coracoid process. Its name is derived from a Greek word which means crow's beak, and its shape is just like a bent finger or a crow's beak. And then its attachments, and first we discuss its clinical. Its clinical is winging of scapula. It is caused by the damage to long thoracic nerve, which leads to the paralysis of the serratus anterior. The serratus anterior paralysis leads to the unduly prominence of the medial border of scapula. So this is its clinical, that is winging of scapula. And now we take a quick review on its bony features and attachments, right? This is the lateral side, this is medial side, this is superior, this is inferior. On the lateral side, this is the glenoid cavity, this is the infraglenoid tubercle, this is supraglenoid tubercle, this is acromion process, this is clavicular facet, this one is the coracoid process, this one is the subscapular fossa, this one is its lateral border, this one is its medial border, this one is the superior angle, this one is the inferior angle. The glenoid cavity is also called the lateral angle. Okay, and now this one is the posterior aspect. This one is the spine of scapula. This is the crest of spine, right? This is the upper lip of crest of spine. This is the lower lip of crest of spine. This is the acromion process. This one is the superior surface of acromion process. This one is the inferior surface of acromion process. This one is the lateral border of the acromion process. This one is the medial border of acromion process. This is the coracoid process, and this is the inferior angle on dorsal aspect, right? These were the bony features. And now we take a quick review of the attachments of scapula. This one is the serratus anterior along the medial border. This one is the subscapularis muscle on the subscapular fossa. This one is the long head of triceps brachii on infraglenoid tubercle, long head of biceps brachii on supraglenoid tubercle, coracobrachialis, and short head of biceps brachii on tip of the coracoid process. This one is on the superior surface of coracoid process is the pectoralis minor. On base of the coracoid process is the coracoclavicular ligament. This is the face. This is the acromion process. The tip of the acromion process gives attachment to deltoid. This is the facet, clavicular facet, which gives attachment to which form the clavicular joint, acromioclavicular joint. This one is the omohyoid muscle. This is its inferior belly, and it lies just below the superior border near the suprascapular notch, right? This one is the dorsal view. This one is the infraspinous fossa, and medial 2/3 of infraspinous fossa is covered by infraspinatus muscle. This is the supraspinous fossa. Medial 2/3 of the supraspinous fossa is covered by the supraspinatus muscle. This is the levator scapulae muscle, which extends from the superior to from the superior angle to the medial border, right? This is the rhomboid minor. This one is the this one is the rhomboid major muscle, which is attached to the medial border of scapula. This is the latissimus dorsi, which is attached to the dorsal aspect of the inferior angle of scapula, right? This is the lateral border of scapula. The upper 2/3 is covered by teres major, which is present in the form of two slips. These two slips are separated by circumflex scapular artery. This one is the last or lower 1/3 of lateral border of scapula. It is covered by teres minor, right? This is the similarly the infraglenoid tubercle, supraglenoid tubercle, head of coracoid process. These are discussed here. And now this is the lower lip of spine and the lateral border of acromion process. It gives attachment to deltoid muscle. The upper lip of spine and the medial border of acromion process, it gives attachment to the trapezius muscle. And now the superior view, right? The this is the acromion part of the coracoacromial ligament, coracoacromial ligament, and this one is the coracoid part of the coracoacromial ligament, right? This is the glenoid cavity, this is trapezius muscle, this is deltoid muscle, this is subscapularis muscle, this one is the infraglenoid tubercle, right? Sorry, omohyoid muscle, which lies just close to the suprascapular notch. This one is the transverse ligament. Okay, these are the conoid and trapezoid parts of the coracoclavicular ligament, right? This one is the pectoralis minor muscle. And okay, that's it. So take care. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.